All right, joining us today, we have Melissa Gaglione. Did I say it right?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Great.
So she is the senior sales manager at Warmly, the founder of Async Sales Company, which, correct me if I'm wrong, you have a little event coming up soon, right?
I do.
Tell us a little bit more real quick.
I have the B2B yacht networking event for sellers, marketers, and revenue in B2B SaaS. We are expecting around 150 to 200 sellers to board a luxurious yacht for dinner, dancing, and networking.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah.
That sounds like it's going to be a really good time. If I was in Tampa, I 100%. I looked at the dates. One of my best friends lives in Tampa. We haven't seen them in a while. And I was like, hey, maybe we can swing it.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I couldn't. But it's going to be a great time. I'm very, very jealous. Wow, jealous. So, look, you have an amazing background. And you've also been at the forefront around like EGC, or what people know as employee generated content. Mm-hmm. Social selling is taking a turn. It's blowing up. It's not going away. And the thing I love about employee generated content is it's humanizing sales. It's humanizing brands to really like amplify that reach. And so I want to dig into that with you today and talk about authentic selling and how this actually drives into that. And so like, let's dig into it. Like, help me understand the foundation. Like, what exactly is employee generated content, and like, why is it so popular or gaining momentum?
Yes. So employee generated content is as simple as it is. It is content that is consistently produced by your individual employees. Now, this doesn't mean that it's highly structured or overly orchestrated, but it means that your employees are either producing content that amplifies your company and amplifies their personal brand and who they are.
So how does this really differ from like traditional marketing? Take a little bit deeper for us. And like, what does good look like and what does not good look like?
Yeah. So the easiest way to kind of describe this is, let's look at B2C. Let's start there. When B2C started advertising years and years and years ago, right? We saw the billboards, buy this soup. It's healthy, right? We started seeing that traditional advertising come to life. We started seeing on billboards and newspapers and magazines, and then those TV commercials and all that stuff. And then all of a sudden, we started seeing brands pair up with the big stars. We started seeing Nike pair up with big basketball players. We started seeing this shift where it's not just that this soup will make you healthy because this billboard says it. It's because somebody that someone really looks up to says it will make them healthy. And we started getting into the power of influence there. Obviously, with social media, Instagram, all those things, that gave more exposure to people who were seen and influencers that were having a lot of trust. But then we started seeing another shift, which is happening more the past 3 years, where brands are saying, maybe we don't need to pay $1 million for one LinkedIn or one Instagram post. Maybe what we should do is connect to the users, the people who actually love our product, the people who use our product, the people that might not have the gazillion followers, but they have a tight, engaged community, And so then brands started focusing on that. But you're noticing here, there's still a lot of money being sent out. A lot of money is being shipped out here. And this was the biggest pivot of it all, and where we're seeing employee generated content is brands have been throwing all of this money to all the people that actually don't really understand, and they might use it, but nobody is closer to what you sell than the people that work there. Nobody is going to be a bigger advocate for what your company solves for, or the services or the product, than the people that work there. And in fact, they can talk about that product for far better or more reach or all these things better than anyone that you just say, hey, can you make a post about this? So not only is it cheaper, it is also being able to share the most passion and the people that really understand the most in social media. And just because they don't have the million followers, when you have a bunch of people, now you have a bunch of content coming out and you start to swarm people. So that's what we're seeing. We're seeing this big change from traditional advertising and marketing to ownership of the employees and them owning how they're sharing their company and their product through their own socials.
I love that. It's the micro influencers, right? And it's the compounding impact of that with employee generated content. I want to take us a step back though.
Yeah.
You mentioned about B2C,
Hmm.
and I agree. I relate with this, right? I was actually talking with somebody earlier today, and it was mind blowing to me how years ago, when I first started getting into SaaS, because I came from more of a marketplace background, they're like, I always get the question, like, well, how do you think you can fit in with SaaS? And I'm like, I just never understood that question, because I was like, a marketplace, we have to understand both B2B and B2C. And so, like, actually being able to connect on both sides was even more important. We're seeing that transition happen in B2B today. And so, what's changed in the actual like landscape that has actually created the power of EGC to where this is like a great marketing tool
For a specific B2B or for a specific?
for B2B?
Yeah. So the big change was B2B. For some reason, B2B and especially SaaS, we think we're so special. We think like our problems are so unique and we solve all these things. And like it's people buy the same way. Like just like the way we buy tech is the same way people are buying their sneakers. Obviously, there's more steps and a sales process and negotiations and all these things, but the psychology behind why people buy is still why people buy. So it's interesting because it's almost like B2B really thought for a long time we're so different from B2C. And this is how we market to B2B. We send them a million emails a month. We pitch them. We almost like put like mumbo jumbo in our emails, like things that this company jargon that makes no sense. Like I don't know why we thought that's what it was, and it was just we kind of just thought it was different. But the big change and what has happened was LinkedIn started to take off during the pandemic. People went from working in office to working by themselves, totally at home, and they needed some sort of connection. And that's when I got on LinkedIn was during the pandemic. I was like, I just started seeing and connecting and being like, wow, this is actually a cool place. Oh my gosh, I've actually made a connection here. Wait, this isn't weird. And you kind of go through these motions of like, wait, LinkedIn is just like all the other social media platforms, except it's actually great for my career. And I actually make really genuine connections here. And so we saw that big shift, that boom in LinkedIn where people started flooding it and being less scared to actually produce content. And then companies started encouraging it.
Yep, I agree. I think like the power of LinkedIn is gotten just crazy. I think it's also, to your point, is like the buyer landscape is changing, and I think even the on the B2B side, the buyers are completely changing,
Yeah.
right? There's definitely this generational shift that's happening right now. And so I want to dig a little bit more into like the meat of it, right? Because you've obviously have implemented this at organizations that you've been at. So let's use Warmly as an example, if you don't mind. Like Warmly's been making some waves on the EGC approach, and so like let's explore how you implement that strategy. Like walk us through a little bit, because the reason for my question, one of the hardest things that I've noticed from getting organizations to adopt anything that is around social selling is like the immediate ROI is so hard to actually measure, right?
Right.
And so what has like been the journey for you, like when you joined Warmly, to adopting that like AGC mentality and like really getting the organization around it?
Yes. So when I joined Warmly, I made it very clear that this was one of my passions. This was something that I needed to make sure occurred. And they were so on board. Like, great. Because if they weren't, I mean, I don't think I would have joined a company that wasn't about this and that wasn't willing to put in the work for it. I will say I am a sales manager first. Like I am a seller, sales manager. That is my full-time job. That is what I'm focused in. I'm focused on revenue, the marketing stuff. And even what you see on LinkedIn and all my side stuff, that comes way later. Like everything that you see is literally an afterthought, which sounds crazy, but I'm trying to produce as much as I can. But my major focus, my heart and soul is in coaching reps and helping them close deals prior also closing deals, but you know what I mean. So, coming to Warmly, that was really important. The next thing when I was making my decision on if I was going to join Warmly as well was do they get it? And I saw some prior reps. I saw head of revenue, I saw CEO, I saw people posting, and I was like, okay, they got a feel for it already. And then on top of it, to bring it back to revenue, that has been the hardest thing to prove in EGC. So, what product can help with that? A product that identifies web visitors, a product that can identify people who click specific UTMs, what pages they go on, what was their page path, who did they come in from, can we analyze that, can they chat with someone on the website that they know, like me. So to me, it made so much sense that not only can this be something that can be implemented as a sales leader, somebody who, and I wanted that motion of like, this isn't somebody's full-time job to implement this for their sales. Like, this is just part of it. Because I do think sales is going to cannibalize this, to be honest. And I wanted it to be this very organic motion of like, we have to figure out how we balance it all, how we structure it all, how we do it all. With the help, of course, my amazing marketing team and them being on board, with Demand Gen being on board. We hired an additional content marketer to help with us who has studied and is all about creating authentic stuff. Like, we hired the right person who had actually never posted on LinkedIn before in her life and had never been on LinkedIn before, and then studied us and was like, be authentic. So to do all this, first I needed to make sure it was at the right company, but it's great because I can eat my own dog food, and it still comes back around of getting people to go from, how do you get people to, one, acknowledge you, get the attention, and how do you turn that into revenue? And it's all the stuff in between. It's all the funnel stuff between that Warmly as a product does help me analyze to bring back to the revenue that we're generating. So yeah, it was interesting, but at the end of the day, like, we're getting people on the website. You might not want to qualify it as an SQL. It might not be exactly a sales qualified lead if you want to measure that. We can definitely measure MQLs. We can also measure the impressions and the reach as well there. And now there's even more tools that are doing, LinkedIn analysis for us to see that as well. So it's coming. Like, companies are coming to help enable these tools. So anyway, I think the question was like, how do we implement something like this with the ROI justification of it? I did it at the company that makes it a lot easier for me to implement it and justify the ROI. So that way it all makes sense there, and I'm not having to fight an uphill battle. So I made my life a bit easier here just to prove it out.
I agree with that, right? And I think I think even if you put Warmly aside, what you talked about was the integration of the entire go-to-market organization. Mm-hmm. It's not just one team's responsibility. It is there's a full feedback loop, right, that happens on there. And I think that's the most important piece of where you get anything that is new or innovative, especially around social selling. Because where I'm a big supporter of it and a big believer of it is when it's done the right way, it actually allows us to meet our buyers where our buyers are at.
Right.
Right. And so luckily it went amazing at Warmly. Have you talked with people, or what are some of the common things that maybe you've heard from people in your network of like the challenges that they have walked into when trying to get their organization to adopt this mentality?
Yes. So I do work with other companies outside of my 9 to 5. It's often, and it's actually, I feel like I do like an 8 to 6 at least. But we figure it out. Like we make time. I work a lot on the weekends. But other than that, I do work with other companies that in a very async way, because that's my company is Async, and the purpose of Async Sales Co is to do a lot of async coaching and teaching, so that way I can do it all. But I do work with other companies that are implementing this for the first time. And I would say the major challenges is consistency, which normal. Who doesn't have, I could have trouble with consistency with emptying my dishwasher every morning. That is such a human problem to have. How do you fix consistency? You have structure. Maybe you have challenges. Maybe you have checklists. You don't force consistency, you incentivize it. So, one is consistency. Two is going to be the fear. So many people are so afraid to post on LinkedIn, even afraid to make a comment on LinkedIn. I literally was talking to a team on Tuesday. Yeah, we do Tuesday nights. And they were just sharing with me how they go to write and then they stop. And they're not thinking that what they have to say is valuable. And I can't express it enough. If you are in the trenches every day, what you have to say is the most valuable, not the person that hasn't been doing this for 30 years. Like what you're doing day to day, what you're experiencing, like even if it's not your exact job, and if you're selling to talent acquisition and you have studied the talent acquisition persona and problems and pains, you are equipped to share your POV in these comments. So it's consistency and it's fear that really prevents teams from doing it. But all you need is one person on one team to do it. And everyone else goes, oh, wow, look at John. Wow, he's doing a really good job. Oh my God, he got that meeting. Wait, people are liking his post. Oh my gosh, he got invited onto that podcast. That's crazy. Oh, he just got this award. He's getting job offers. Like all this stuff starts happening to that person, and everyone else starts to jump in. So all I need is one, honestly. I just need one person to do it. And then I'm like, you see, look at this.
It's the imposter syndrome is real,
Yeah.
right? I'm sure you went through it when you first started. I definitely went through it. I mean, I didn't really start being active, I'd probably say until last year.
Mm-hmm.
And it was imposter syndrome that held me back for the longest time, where I was like, do I really know that much? Do I really have that much to share? And what got me over it, I was like, I got plenty of scars. I can share the scars,
Yeah.
right? And like that's also what people are craving for. And so I want to connect the dots a little bit, right? Like, so obviously, like employee generated content, you just went through that cycle of like how it optimizes social selling and how this can actually like really contribute to building those authentic relationships. Um, Given it, do you have an example of like what are some of the different types of things or topics that you either have your team generate or you've seen other people generate, and how has that unlocked more of their social selling capabilities?
Yes. So I teach what's called the Shine framework, um, which just helps people think of ideas. I mean, to go even deeper, I think it's important for everyone. I literally teach this where if you want to build a brand, I literally make you go through like a self awakening. Like you are thinking of like the hardest times of your life. Like you are thinking of the hardest stories that have made you who you are. Like you are asking 3 friends what you're good at. Like it is an intense, like almost literal like awakening of like who you are. Because if someone asks like, oh, what are your content pillars? Like who are you? You're like, well, oh my God, I don't know. I work from home. Like there's not much that comes to mind. So I make people go through this really deep analysis of like who they are. Um, after you go through like a deep analysis of who you are, which is also very like soul searching, and it's nice to connect with people on it and people share about it, and you have this idea. Then I go through the SHINE framework, which SHINE is easy to remember, I think. But S is for stories. So you're thinking of like, what are the stories that you can share? And I have a couple of questions, a couple of prompts, so that way you just bullet point it. So, stories for me, for example, I can talk about my career. I was an elementary education teacher, I was an on air news reporter for CBS, and then I fell into sales. I can talk about three different types of stories there. I could talk about when I was, on the road and there was tornadoes behind me and I was, creating stories then, or I could talk about the time where one of the kids spit on my shoe as a great example. So you start learning your stories. Everyone's got something a little bit different. Um, H is for highlights. So how can I either highlight myself, right? We always love a nice little achievement, a little bit boost. But H could also be for highlights. Who on your team can you highlight? What about your company or your customer, or what can you highlight to just shine a light on this? One of my reps does an amazing job, especially with the SDRs. She loves hyping up the SDRs when she does her shine. And I love to see it. It makes everyone feel good, I is for insights. So what do you know about your industry? You might not be in sales talking to salespeople. You might be, again, in talent acquisition. What insights can you share to your audience? What is really helpful to them? This could be like industry trends. This could be, hey, I've had 3 conversations today, and these were the 3 things that I kept noticing. SHIN is for, I have to think about how to spell it. N is going to be for your network. You need to keep networking constantly. It's about showing up in the DMs. It's about making sure that you're replying to all the comments and things like that. And then E is going to be your engagement. So going beyond just the people engaging with you, you have to go not just to your prospects. I do it in 3 batches. It's your prospects as well as the people that your prospect follow. Who are they interested in? You're going to go ahead and engage with them. So just with that, like you're looking at posting 3-4 times a week, truthfully. And just to start out, it makes it a little bit easier. Once you have like that deep thinking, you're jotting things down, you're prompting it. I also encourage people to take their stories or take their pillars, throw it into Claude and say, come up with 100 questions about this. So that way each day, if they need to dig deeper, they pick a question and they answer it in a post. And it makes it a bit easier, but that's typically where we start with.
All right. Love the SHINE framework. That was actually like my follow-up question to this, so you beat me to it. I got a random question. When it comes to engagement, what's your recommendation about AI comments? Do you engage with that? Because I have a really hard time. I just give it a thumbs up because I'm like, you just kind of restated what I posted. I don't know what to respond with.
I literally hate them. I hate them
It is
so
so bad.
much. And you know what? It's not even like LinkedIn is stopping them. I'm like,
Yeah.
how is LinkedIn banning company profiles, but not this kid who has sent he's on every single comment, And um and then there's people that do both and they trick me and they do AI comments, but then every once in a while they show up being real. And I'm like, see, like you could have been this whole time. I think to be very candid though, like if you're using AI comments, you're doing the opposite. You're literally hurting yourself. People know. Just like on how people are like, I saw this AI written post because of a dash, and they call people out. Like people are reading your AI comments and they're like, what? And I know them off the top of my head, all my bots. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know what to do with them. I
I
just
don't.
don't engage with them. As I often report them. I'd be like a police officer.
So we added that to the fourth. So we have a news anchor, we
Yeah,
got a teacher, and then we have a security officer.
yeah, yeah. I'm LinkedIn security. If anyone's got any problems, I got it. Don't worry.
I love that. All right. Do you have an example, right, I'm sure you got to have like probably both horror stories, but also like the good stories of like, do you have an example of like where someone was resistant to this and like they finally did it and they had that like, oh shit moment where they're like, oh, this actually works?
Mm-hmm. Um, I would say, I mean, I think I get people hype up, like very hyped. And I also think coming from me, it's a lot easier to believe in what it is that we're doing because I'm like literally I'm like I was just you. Like I mean I'm also still working a full-time job. Like it's also hard to believe the people that like and maybe not. It's hard to hop on the mission when it's someone that they have their own company, they have all the time, they have all the resources, they have all the mics, they have all the things. And it's funny because even when I look at my background, which I very carefully made, specific, like I very carefully made, part of me was like, ooh, am I overdoing it? Because do I seem like it's really hard to get to this point? Am I making it seem impossible? So I think the biggest revelation that people have is not that they're against doing it. It's like once you get past the fear and the consistency of it, but people start to have fun with it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I see the light bulb. People literally start making friends. I have too many LinkedIn friends. And it's like this, some they came to my wedding. Like I literally had friends that I met through LinkedIn and I was like, take an invite. Like, come on. Like, it just happens. And so I think that was what my content manager is one. I think she's a great example because we are at an on-site and I was like, girl, LinkedIn is so fun. And I start showing her all these people and she's like, but this content is so boring compared to TikTok. And I'm like, no, you don't get it. Like just post, you'll see. She has made so many mentors and so many friends. She is obsessed with LinkedIn now. And literally she's like, this is the most fun platform ever because LinkedIn, you can connect with people. So yeah, now she's hooked. She's highly addicted, which is maybe not something I should promote. But she's
Yeah.
excellent at her job because of it. So yeah, I think that's the biggest shocker for people is they realize how much fun it is.
That is so true. I think like I'm at a point now where I have fun where even if I'm testing out, like, hey, maybe this is some new positioning we can take to the market,
Yeah.
like I'll post something about it just to see how does the market react.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah. Yeah.
think the aha moment I had was actually when I joined Mixmax. It was just announcing. So this was about probably a year in of me actually like posting consistently. Um, and then when I posted about joining Mixmax, first week I like came in and a rep told me that like, hey, somebody who commented on me announcing joining Mixmax, we closed a deal from. And that was my first moment where I was like, okay, like this works.
Yeah.
Like, oh my
It works.
gosh. And so, but I think to your point is if you go with the mentality of the results and I'm only doing this for the results, like you're going to stop doing it because you're not going to get the results. Like that comes down the road. I think that's a byproduct. I
Yeah,
think the joy and the network is like the biggest piece behind it.
it is.
And so I want to add on to this, right? Because I feel like we took a turn into like imposter syndrome world, which is great because most people, this is the biggest thing that holds them back. How does employee generated content actually help people kind of get over that imposter syndrome? Because you're helping them with like the structure, even if it's sharing things about their company or about their colleagues. Have you seen like that has been like a great way to open that door?
Yeah, it's really interesting. I always say, like, if you feel like an imposter, that's a good thing. You want to feel like I'm always an imposter. Like, I'm always like, I don't really know if I'm doing this right. I have no idea. Who am I? I
That's how I
don't
feel every day.
Yeah, and that's a good thing
Yeah.
because when you feel like an imposter, you're being challenged and you're being stretched and you're learning. When you don't feel like an imposter, then you're just, and it's okay to go in waves. You have waves of like, learning and probably struggling a little bit, and then waves of like, okay, I got this. Like I feel really good. But then you need to keep going up. You need to keep being a little bit of an imposter. But when it comes to posting, it's so crazy because when I first started posting, I talked a lot about habits, and this was when I was a SDR and I was working from home for the first time. And I started sharing the journals that I was using each day. And then I started sharing like my 10-minute mini tasks that I would do as like a break. Like instead of sitting at my computer, I would just quickly vacuum or like Swiffer real quick or like fold laundry. And then I started feeling a little bit weird about it because I was like, I am kind of a new adult. As silly as that sounds, but as basic as it is, like not talking about B2B SaaS, but like I was kind of like a newish adult. I had just moved in with my boyfriend, now husband. And here I am talking about how I'm structuring my mornings. And some mornings I just couldn't do it. You know, some mornings just suck. And the mornings that I wasn't really able to stay with my habits and my commitments, I felt like shit because here I am telling people and encouraging habits. And then, you know, the next 3 days later, I fall off of it and have to get back on. But what's crazy and what happened was it became accountability. So not only am I going to, and I wasn't saying I'm an expert at habit building, I'm saying I'm learning how to do this. Like I'm literally, and if you're open about it, I'm learning how to do this. I'm learning how to be a sales leader, you know? I'm still learning how to do employee generated content and implementing it across other teams. This is just what I'm finding. And so when you change it from I have to be an expert to I'm going to learn to be an expert, the imposter syndrome goes away and you're sharing your wins and your losses, you're sharing your challenges and you're being real about it. So when I was doing that habit journal, eventually I switched from a journal to a monthly checklist. And that really helped me. But I only got there because I had to fail a little bit. I had to stumble a little bit. I had to be real with myself, but I kept LinkedIn as my accountability to, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to get really good at it. So then I started focusing on video prospecting. And I'm like, I'm going to get really damn good at video prospecting. And I did. And then I started focusing on how am I going to go up market at deal and bring a product to market. Okay, I'm going to study this. I'm going to get really damn good at it. So like you can get good at a lot of things. Whatever you put your mind to is what's going to get good at it. But that's how you beat imposter syndrome is just acknowledging what you have, what you don't have, what skills you need to go for, and being real with yourself of like, I'm learning how to do this. And it's okay for you to share that. It's okay to share when you're learning.
I feel like people crave that more.
Yeah.
I at least like I'll speak for my I love it when people are come off more authentic.
Mm-hmm.
If you present to me as though you know everything and here's a playbook and here's this, like automatically like I'm a little bit more defensive. But I would agree with you on that, right? Is like that's at least it helped me overcome my imposter syndrome to where it's just like I don't know if I'm the smartest person to be sharing this, but I do know the questions that I have around this. And so I'm curious, like, what are other people thinking as well?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a really, really good call out.
But also, one of the greatest pieces of advice, one of them, that I got from a mentor of mine. This was when I was leaving news reporting and I didn't know what I was going to do with my life at all. I had just moved across the country. I had quit my job as a teacher. I had a master's and everything. And then I went to be a reporter and I hated it. I was crying every day, miserable. And I was crying to my mentor saying, I'm going to quit, but I don't know what I'm going to do. But the only thing that was keeping me from quitting was because I had told everyone that I was going to be a news reporter for the rest of my life. And I was afraid to make that change and for people to think either I wasn't mentally strong enough or I wasn't a good enough broadcaster or I wasn't smart enough or whatever it may be. And she was like, Melissa, nobody really cares. And I was like, oh shit, you're right. And that mindset I needed to hear because truthfully, nobody's looking that closely. Nobody really cares. And literally, so what if they do? Or so what if they have to say something about it? Because it's 1 second of their thought that's holding you back, or it's you thinking that they're going to think something, probably not even real, Like that's your anxious mind lying to you. Um, and so it's silly. Like it's actually silly when you think about it.
I it's something I've lived and breathed by, which is like the actual definition of fear, which is what you just
Hmm.
described. It's false expectations appearing real. And it always comes down, I say expectation because we put it in our mind that they have this, like they, right? The people who don't actually care have this expectation that I need to know what I'm good at. Or they have this expectation that I'm supposed to be the best broadcaster in the world.
Yeah.
9 times out of 10, to your point, like this is just, it's this getting in the way. Nobody really does care. Right. And if people do care enough to like make some noise about it, well, I mean, then that maybe means you're talking about something right and getting people to.
And I also think about it, I'm like, you wanna know who they are? Sometimes, and if this helps, like go to a gas station, go to a restaurant, and just look around and be like, do I care what that person thinks about me? Like, no. No. Like you don't know that, like you know nothing about this person. And it's the same thing on the internet. Like, if you were to take all those people and put them in a room and be like, do you care what number 784 over there thinks about you? You'd be like, no, I don't know him. But for some reason, when it's on socials, we think that we need to pre think about what someone else is going to potentially think about us. But it doesn't matter.
I agree with that completely. Okay, so to bring this full circle real quick, we talked a lot about like how you've been able to like instill this in the organizations that you've impacted, the clients you've impacted, and the people that you have led. And so let's give our listeners some takeaways. Like what are suggested steps that organizations can take to empower their employees to actually create and share content authentically?
First is please don't make it a KPI. I know that sounds crazy, and a lot of people want to do KPIs. Maybe this is just my sales methodology. I don't really know, but some people are really, really good at cold calls. Some people are really, really good at emails and videos, and some are really good at social. Some are really good, like little demand gen engines. I think it's important first to evaluate what everyone's skills are and what they're interested in. Because if you put a KPI on someone who has zero interest in posting on LinkedIn, it's not just imposter syndrome. Like it truly makes them dread it. Like you don't want that to be the promotion of the company. At least not the first round. Maybe they'll pick up on it because they see other people being successful with it. So I say first analyze the skill set and who really wants to. I make it a volunteer program. I'm like, hey, who wants to join my social selling crew? We're going to hype each other up. Here's what we're going to do. And you know how many people will probably volunteer for it that want to learn it? Let them come, let them volunteer. Once they volunteer, I tell everyone make a Slack group right away, and it's your new accountability group. As a team, decide how are you going to do this? You guys want to post 3 times a week? Great. Personal goals over company goals. All right. Why? What's your why? Oh, I want to get a promotion. That's a great why, to be honest. Oh, I want to bring more leads in. I want to do that. Oh, I want to build my brand because one day I want to be an entrepreneur. Like there's other deeper whys that are there. And then from there, that's when we start to kind of backtrack, follow the Shine framework, figure out who you are, all of that stuff. Use Slack and those teams as not just the accountability, but that way other people like it. Um, and I just want everyone to really focus on engagement. So even if you don't post, focus on engagement. Anyone can do that. And that's those 3 pillars of ICP, influencers of your ICP and your community. So who's showing up for you every day and doing at least 5 comments per bucket each day. By the end of the month, you'll have 150 warmed prospects, 150 comments on influencers posts. So you might be seen as someone who has, some knowledge and someone that people can learn from. And then 150 times you connected with your community. So I really recommend that. And just start there. Like You don't need to give them the branded assets. You don't need to give them all this stuff. Like, just encourage them to share a little bit what's working. We're not chasing likes. We're just chasing consistency to get started.
If you don't have that as like an asset, I'm going to request that, please. No, that is a great breakdown because I love kind of, it's almost like an employee resource group, right? It's like, hey, we're creating a little committee for this.
Mm-hmm.
Who wants to come one, come all. I love that. I agree with you too, is around the KPIs. It's just a recipe for disaster, right? And I think if COVID taught us anything from like turning into a remote environment, at least what it taught me, my extroverts did great on the sales floor.
Yeah.
My introverts crushed it when we were a remote workforce.
Mm-hmm.
And that taught me is just like, it's one of my kind of core values for a seller is like, bring your own operating system. I'm never going to force you to do a specific way. Because if you're great at cold calling, do that.
Yeah.
If you're great at social selling, do that. But if you also want to learn, let's make sure we create the environment to where those who want to learn can test and be creative and actually try that out. So I really, really love that approach. We had two more questions for you, and then we'll close this up because one is a random one as you're talking. How do you envision the role of a seller evolving into the future? Right? We talk about EGC, we talk about social selling. Like me personally, I think that in sales in the future, you have to have a brand. Like your name is your brand in sales, and I think it's becoming even more critical. But I'm curious from your perspective, like what is the role going to change? Like what does the right type of seller look like in the future?
I still think that no matter what, you need to sell like you. Anytime that I have tried to, especially in beginning, I tried to sell like other people, it was not good. It was not working, you know? So number one, you need to sell like you. And selling it like you might not be being the billboard, being the person that's constantly going and posting all that. Selling like you could be primarily just in the DMs all the time. Could be, the networking aspect of it. But if I'm going to be honest, I do think that the engine is going to evolve. I do see more of like demand gen specialists doing a lot of the mass emails, the cadences, all of that. I do see a lot of that. I don't think that we should hold SDRs or AEs to high KPIs when it comes to email outreach. They're just burning domains and pissing people off. Honestly, I think we just leave it to the demand gen specialists to send out all their stuff. I see a then now more structured and analytical, but networking rep who is analyzing, of course, their network, the network of their prospects and their clients, network of their friends, their all of it. You have to see all that. So I see more of like, and these are some tools that are coming out like this as well, like more network focused there. And then I also see us analyzing more signals, not just web visitors, but the triggers and the reasons why. I used to call it external factors, which was so funny. Basically, if I read it in a 10K report or I listened to a podcast of one of my prospects and I would put it in a video and send it to them as to like why we can help them. But it's really just reasons to reach out and why someone could be interested in. So analyzing those is going to become a lot more. But I think that it's going to go back to being more relationship based. Like it's great to have all this information and you do have to get the word out there. But I mean, for an example, I sent a contract today over a LinkedIn DM. And we yes, we have our threads, but we've been talking on LinkedIn, like we've been chit chatting. That's where we're primarily going. And this is the second time he bought from me. So it's coming back around, we're seeing this and it's not like they came to warmly, they came to Melissa. Mm-hmm. And it's almost like the real estate agent in your neighborhood. You tell your friends about them. Like it's kind of like how they've been marketing themselves is kind of what we're doing here in a bit. So I see it more as relationship based sales, being more available for your network it doesn't mean you're posting every day, but it does mean you're showing up in the comments and the DMs and, understanding the people that are there for you.
I couldn't agree more. I think the evolution of sales is less about the person. And what I mean by the person is like, can you do cold calling? Are you good at this one thing? It's more about embracing the person in the salesperson. What is their operating system that brings them to the table? But I think you hit a really, really good one is I think the evolution of sales is like, how do we make sure that sales is added into the conversation at the right time?
Mm-hmm.
I think we've been able to force ourselves in the conversation historically. I think now the buying landscape has evolved way too much to where you're just friction when you do
Yeah.
that. And this is part of like with like employee generated content is like, I call it personalization versus personalization.
Oh my God.
AI can do personalization. Personalization is actually understanding like, what do you care about? What are your problems? Like, what's keeping you up at night? When we can do that and talk about that better, that's when the natural relationship will occur. I agree with that completely. Last question for you. So if a company's hesitant,
Mm-hmm.
so like they listen to this and like, yeah, I love it, but like I'm hesitant to actually embrace this, what advice would you offer them to like actually start on this journey?
I almost said something mean. My first response is like, loser. Not my problem. If you
Well,
can't, if
there it is,
you're not
folks.
gonna adapt, all right. Like you
Evolve or die.
evolve or die. Like you're either in it or you're not. Like I don't know. What do you have to lose? Like
That's true.
I literally, especially if it's employee gen, you're already paying these people. Like
Yeah,
it's just so funny to me because it's like, what's the risk?
that
Like
is true. There's no risk.
you know,
Yeah,
unless you're paying for me or someone like me to come in, like we have big risk. Like that's so much money. It's not, but you know what I mean to a
yeah,
company. But like, what's the risk? Like, what? Why so hesitant about it? So you try, and maybe it doesn't go so well. You learn from it. You try again. Like, it's basically saying like, what if nobody got Slack? Like I don't know how to explain it. Like, what if you were like, I'm not getting Zoom? Like, it's kind of like that. Like, what do you have to lose when you
yeah.
just try it?
I love that. I agree. Sometimes the most obvious answers are the best ones. So I will accept loser. I will accept evolve or die. And I will accept what's the risk, right? What's the worst that can happen? It's the same as like with asking questions. I always tell reps, I'm like, what's the worst that can happen? They say no.
Yeah. Well, all right.
Okay. Well, we're back where we started. Melissa, this was awesome. Like, really, thank you so much for like coming in, sharing these valuable insights. I really enjoyed getting to understand like the authentic you, a little bit more about your background, but also like your motivation and what has inspired you to like really push this. It's not going away. So I encourage everybody is like, make sure you connect with Melissa on LinkedIn, explore Warmly's innovative approach to employee generated content. Don't forget to subscribe to Mixology. You can check us out on YouTube, on Spotify. Until next time, keep it real, keep engaging. Thank you, Melissa.
Thanks.